looks like we have pretty much everyone in at this point, or at least a lot of folks. So welcome. Thank you again for joining us for this webinar and information session where we are going to be talking about how to prepare your teen for studying abroad, and in particular, how to prepare them for studying abroad this coming summer with CIEE. And we're so excited to have you all here to learn more about this opportunity and also just to learn more about how you can help your teen have a successful summer. My name is Stephen Bush, and I am a regional director with CIEE. And I joined CIEE now 15 years ago. I joined CIEE because I really believe in our mission. I studied abroad when I was in college, and it really changed the trajectory of my life. It determined what I wanted to go on to do in grad school, and eventually I decided to join this field and help other people have life-changing experiences. And I'm joined by my colleague, Rachel.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Coffin. I am the Director of Operations for the high school team. I, like Stephen, have been here a while. It's been about 11 years working on the high school team. I have really enjoyed watching us send thousands of students abroad every single summer, learning about their experiences. And I am excited for my own son to be able to study abroad when he is in high school in what I'm sure will be only a few short years.
Absolutely. And I should mention that I have two children, including a teen, and I'm excited for him to study abroad. And I think both Rachel and I, as parents, really understand, just kind of what a big deal it is to think about sending your child, your student away, to traveling internationally when you're not there. It's a huge step as a parent, and we really appreciate that. Um, and so I think that's why, we also understand just how important it is for for you to know that your student is traveling like in safe hands. All right, so a little bit about CIEE. We were founded in 1947, coming out of World War II. We were founded as a nonprofit with the mission of fostering understanding between people from different countries and cultures. And that's still our mission today. We facilitate over 40,000 different exchange experiences for students studying abroad and also students coming to the US. So today, our agenda, first of all, we're really excited because you're going to have the chance to hear from a parent of a student who traveled last summer. Um, we'll talk about some of the highlights of a CIE summer program, the benefits for alumni, and then also how to prepare your team to travel safely and for you to have peace of mind in helping them travel abroad. So we'll get into some of the logistics and questions around flights, housing, insurance, and talk about next steps to help your student prepare. So I'm very excited to introduce you to Meredith, who has been supporting students in studying abroad for years in Meredith's role at Annandale High School in Virginia. But Meredith is also the parent of a student who traveled last summer, and parent of another child who is planning to study abroad this coming summer. So Meredith, I'll let you introduce yourself more. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Meredith Hedrick, and I'm a teacher in Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. I did study international relations, and I did a study abroad in Belgium when I was in college. So I really believe in study abroad for the development of the person and the individual. If your students or child go to an IB school, I'm also the MYP coordinator. But I've been involved with CIE for a couple of years now. I personally have visited, I think, 4 or 5 programs, and I've loved every single one for different reasons. Last year, my son, he was a junior at the time. He's now a senior. He chose to go to Berlin, Germany to study global entrepreneurship. And he chose that because one, he likes the history of Germany. He's really into business. He was in DECA and he thinks he wants to major next year in business. So this was a good program for him. And then this summer, my other son's more into engineering and design. So he's going to be traveling to South Korea to do urban design and sustainability. And we're really excited for both of them. And also, as a teacher, hearing the growth of kids when they come back is just phenomenal. Um, so I highly recommend the program. Everyone who comes back just grows in so many different ways, whether through their host family experience or connecting with other students or the content on the program that they were in, whether it be language and culture and their language growth or a thematic program. So I highly recommend it. Stephen, is there any particular topics you wanted me to touch on now or later?
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Meredith. So, one question I'm curious to ask you is, so you had experience seeing some of your students study abroad, but
Hmm.
last summer was the first time your own child studied abroad. So I'm just
Hmm.
curious if you could kind of place yourself back to last winter or spring when you're thinking about your own child traveling internationally, independently of you on this program. What concerns did you have as a parent or mixed feelings?
Yeah, I definitely was more nervous than I expected, especially since I had been the sponsor of study abroad for such a long time, and my husband and I were Peace Corps volunteers ourselves. I was nervous. One, my son is really into his routine and his sports and working in the summer. So my fear was that he wanted to do this and knew that this would be good for him. But I was wondering if he would get there and have a little bit of, I guess you could say, fear of missing out. And would he really immerse himself in the program? Because we all know it just takes a little bit to settle into making new friends and new routines. And he was
Hmm.
living with the host family. So my concern was really him getting into the program. Of course, he was fine. We talked once a week, texted here and there. He sent me this picture of the people he met on the trip when he landed. So I wasn't worried about the flight. I was a little worried about the host family and how if he would be comfortable. One of the issues that popped up is that they have more strict showering rules.
Okay.
That was one thing that I was thinking, how is he going to handle that? Because he likes to take 2 showers a day and is just really particular
Uh,
about that.
yeah.
But he worked through it and he worked through the food. He's a very picky eater, so I was a little worried about that. And he went with a classmate who's gluten free, and that family was worried about him being gluten free, but they stuck together and they never went hungry. They enjoyed the host family experience, totally immersed themselves in the program, and definitely used the experience on his college essay. And one note that I would
Cool.
like to make, because no one told me about this before, one of the schools where he's been accepted to, they gave him additional money to study abroad in college. So they
Oh,
saw
wow.
CIE in there, and then they gave him a scholarship to do study abroad in college.
Oh, wow. So
So I
is he a senior this year?
Yeah, senior this year
Okay.
doing the college application process. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think those were my concerns is how he would adjust and get into the program.
sure. Just kind
But
of the being there's that unknown of like how's he actually gonna do when he's there? How will he handle some of these changes like, the showering rules in his host family or expectations? Great.
yes.
So I now just put up a slide that I really love. This is a slide, it's a word map, a word cloud, showing responses to a question we ask alumni, so students who did the program. And we ask them, what did you take away from the experience? How did you kind of what's the benefit? What did you take away from it? And the larger the word on this word map, the more common the response. So the two most common responses were one, growth, and then independence. And you can see others here like responsibility, cultural awareness, confidence, friendships. But I would be curious to hear if you could share, Meredith, for first your child, for Noah, um, how did you see Noah grow personally through the experience?
Yeah, I would say the ones that stick out to me, like one is open-minded. He met people from all over the United States of different backgrounds. And just hearing him debrief when he came back about the different people he met and the different perspectives that they brought to the table. That was one responsibility. I think I was a little worried about the money and the credit card and him budgeting. He did that no problem. Um, and yeah, I would say the growth and independence. He really came back, you know, self-motivated, doing chores, the college application process, being able to navigate applications, communication. We've traveled before, but it was the first time he really had to navigate on his own, using the phone
Hmm.
and the WhatsApp group. Um, I think yeah, more global citizenship. One of his favorite memories was in the afternoon when they had free time. They have in Berlin an old World War II airport that is now like a community rec center where you can go and play basketball. And him and another person on program played for hours with five German kids, and they just sat and talked about life, their wishes, their dreams, their hopes. And he, I believe, wrote about that in one of his essays and the ability to connect with the Germans and teens in particular. And then they gave him a whole list of other places to travel in Berlin. So I would also use the word awareness, um,
Mm.
would be another one.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, that was for your own child, but you've also seen many of your students study abroad. Are there any other trends that you see from, kind of growth or other th things you've noticed from before students study abroad and then afterwards?
I'm going to go with life changing. There was one student who had never flown and left the United States on her own, and she decided to do an unchaperoned flight. It worked better for the family. And that, I think I was more worried about her, to be honest, than my own son. And that was the program that I got to observe in Paris. And when I saw her, I said, Mei Lee, how you doing? Are you okay? She said, I'm better than okay. I am great. She navigated everything on her own. She was in ninth grade when she started that experience, and she's just never looked back since. And I'm just going to use the example of another student who was very, very shy, and ended up becoming a speaker at one of the CIE conferences. And she shared that in classes, junior and senior year, working on her IB diploma, she would not speak in front of the class and take the poor grade just because she was so self-conscious and shy.
Mm.
And after program, she just really gained the confidence, and she became the keynote speaker at one of the CIE conferences. So
Oh, that's
I'm going to go
awesome.
with life changing. And
Sure.
I'm going to say one more thing. A lot of kids have come back looking in career and post-secondary options of what they want to study, of considerations that they've never considered before. One being international relations and political science. And they've
Hmm.
really been able to engage in different programming that they never thought really was a
Hmm.
possibility before. So,
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so for some, they grew personally, but then also it changed really some significant aspects of what they want to do in the future, it sounds
yeah,
like. Okay.
absolutely.
Like where they want to go to college or what they want to study in college, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Well, that fits in with something I wanted to share. Kind of what this aligns with what you said. And, alumni really tell us often that like there's kind of these three buckets of how they benefited. One is fun. I mean, they just simply have a lot of fun traveling, seeing new places, doing cultural activities. But then two, they also make a lot of new friends. So friends from the host country, but then also friends on the program. So other students from across the United States. Um, for those of you who are joining who aren't aware, on our programs, your student will travel with a broad range of high school students from really every part of the US and then even some international students. And what we hear is that they really make these like tight connections with each other. And I'd be curious to hear, Meredith, is that something you've seen either in, your own child or in students? Just the network of friends they built.
Yeah, definitely. My son still is on a group text and they've kept in touch. And over Christmas, a couple of the kids saw each other during the break. And then another student of mine who was on program 3 years ago, he still keeps in touch. And I think they see each other twice a year with his friendship circle. And so I've definitely seen the kids keep in touch in different ways. And I've heard them even sometimes connecting in college, unexpectedly. So definitely, I
Cool.
think you get your little circuit of friends.
Yeah, neat. Awesome. And then I heard you were sharing that some students end up deciding, they want to pursue a different major in college based on the experience, and it really can kind of shape their interests for both college and their career. Um, are there any other aspects you would like to share in terms of how studying abroad helps students prepare for college?
Sure. I'm going to go back to the friends piece because the
Sure.
other thing I noticed was that even kids at our school, so we have we range between 12 to 20 kids a year that travel, but the friendships that happen within our school of kids who didn't know each other before the program. And then when they come back, we have a little network of global ambassadors. And those friendships with the kids, across grade levels, 10, 11, 12, that develop is really special to watch because they've had this common experience and they definitely support each other in looking for opportunities for the future. So, for example, this year, some of the kids did a model UN at Georgetown together over the weekend. And so they tend to seek similar opportunities.
Mm,
Another ambassador just shared her college essay with us, and it was all about CIE. It was really special. And so I think that definitely CIE opens them to know what they want to do. But the other thing that I really appreciate is that the essay that some of the kids wrote for either the merit or financial aid part becomes part of their college essay. So the
mm,
college process is not as intimidating because they've already applied for CIEE.
mm, hmm.
And so I think that's pretty special as well.
They've been through a similar application process, so it's maybe
Yes.
a little less daunting. And then they can
Yes.
use their experiences potentially when they write their college essays.
Correct.
Yeah,
And then
neat.
I'm going to go back
Yeah,
to the college credits because we've had a lot of kids who do the language and culture come
yes.
back. And so not only do they get the college credits, but some of them got I think it's called the Seal of Biliteracy. And
Hmm.
so the one thing that I connected this year that I'd never before, not only do they get credits for college, but sometimes they place out of the language requirement in college. And
Yes,
so
good
that's
point.
kind of the deal. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And for any parents who are joining who aren't familiar with the college credit option, so any student who is participating in one of the language and culture programs where they're going to be doing a language immersion experience, they have the option to opt in for college credit from Tulane University. So it's 4 college credits. And this next slide is really showing what you talked about. So for those students on language programs, 79% of the students showed growth from the pre-program language test scores to post-program. And many of them end up scoring in the range where they earn what you mentioned, the global seal of biliteracy. And then 71% of the participants on language programs chose to opt in and receive college credit. And it's 4 college credits from Tulane University. Some other student outcomes. So students report to us on their post-program surveys some of the ways that they grew. 95% reported improvement in their intercultural awareness and understanding. 87% reported becoming more independent. And then we really love to see this, which is that alumni who've responded to surveys, 100% graduated from high school and 100% attended college after graduation, compared to an average of 61% across the US. And we think that really speaks to the ways that studying abroad can help prepare students for college. And then I'll just mention related to college, CIE also offers alumni what we call CIE College Access. So um, every month we host an event, a virtual event with a guest speaker. Often it's a member of a college admissions team who presents on a specific topic that will help students and their families navigate the college admissions process. And there's the opportunity for alumni and their families to network with each other and kind of learn from each other in navigating the college application process. So I think I'll pause there and hand it over to Rachel to talk more about health, safety, and how to help your teen travel with peace of mind. Thank you, Rachel. And I didn't mention earlier that in the Q&A, there you have the opportunity to vote on questions where you have a similar question. We have members of our team who are signed on and are doing their best, will do their best to answer questions in the Q&A by just writing back to you. And at the end of the webinar, we'll have some time where Rachel and I can also just verbally answer some of the most common, most popular questions. And we'll also provide contact information so that if you have a really individual specific question that really applies to your own unique situation, you can reach out to us via phone and email, and we'll answer your question that way. We won't be able to answer individual questions in this format. All right, Rachel.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what traveling with having your teen travel and giving you as a parent peace of mind. So the first thing I want to talk about is on-program communication. So, Stephen, if you want to advance the slide, thank you. The CIEE has a robust health and safety plan. We have a team who specializes in planning for the worst case scenarios. However, the most important thing that you all can do as parents and students is follow your chain of communication when you are on program. So for students, that means talking to your program leaders. Your program leader will be somebody who is traveling, if you're on a group flight, which I will also talk about in a minute, traveling with you from the US to your program city. And then they will be your support system while you are on program. They are typically a US based teacher or school administrator or someone who has extensive experience with high school students and or with the host city itself. The program leader's role is to bridge that gap between the host culture and the US. So they are that go-to person who will have fluent English. They will be that person that students can always rely on and call and text whenever they need to throughout the program. The program leaders will then ensure that any support that is needed gets to our center staff. So these are our local center staff who live in the host city. They work at the CIEE center. They know everything that there is to know about running CIEE programs in that city. And then the program leaders and the center staff will work together to determine what next steps might need to happen in order to support your student in whatever capacity necessary. If your participant is experiencing an emergency, you as a parent, I'm sure that they will call you. Of course they will. You're the parent. That's their first call. Remind them to call their program leader or to call the center staff or to call the emergency phone number on site, which is held 24/7 by a CIEE center staff member. So there's somebody available for them no matter what the hour is, no matter what time it is. Your role as a parent is to remind them of that. You are still in the United States. they are going to be in the host city and with the staff in the host city. So it's really, really important that we have them speaking to people who are going to be able to help them and be physically with them. Our role as CIEE is to inform you as parents what is happening with your child. So you will receive emails from the center staff if there's a concern that we have with your student, whether that's a medical issue or a behavioral issue. We will inform you right away, depending on how severe or urgent or emergent the matter is. You will receive additional details on what types of communication you will receive from us, as well as when you will hear from us, whether it'll be a 24-hour or 48-hour response time in our additional pre-departure materials once your student is confirmed on program. Now, I know that there were some questions already about free time, so I wanted to address that here as well. Free time is something that is given to all students. Meredith even mentioned it already. We want students to have the opportunity to explore their host city in a safe way. So CIEE does have boundaries and rules with regards to free time. That includes the buddy system. It includes having a phone on them at all times, and it includes regular check-ins with staff. Students will be given instructions during orientation when they arrive on program about what free time looks like, what the rules are, and then they will be reminded before every free time opportunity of what those rules are and what they have to do for check-ins. Meredith, I wanted to ask if you have anything else that you would like to add from your son's experience.
Yeah, there were two program leaders on program, and I was thinking back if anything happened. And one time, a student left his phone on the train when they were going to visit a cultural center. So they worked with the program leader on how they can work with the buddy system to go retrieve the phone and meet up with the group. So, and there was a male and female program leader on program. So I felt like it provided an opportunity for kids to work with the person that they were most comfortable with which whatever would pop up. But I've been sending kids abroad for a couple years now, and I really can't think of any standout situation besides, just trying to navigate host family, maybe food questions, but everything's been really safe and secure. So.
Yeah.
And in the free time, the kids, the one thing I would like to say, I was thinking of a story when I was in Spain and I was on the program where we were learning about sustainability in the textile industry. And it was after lunch and it was free time. And I wanted to go back to the thrift stores that we were looking at, and all the kids on program were there as well. And they all sat down and talked to me and shared their experiences with me. We all ended up in the same place and sat outside. And that was what made me feel like I wanted my child to do it. They were such good kids who were thoughtful and interested in learning. And they had retraced their steps in the afternoon to do more of what they had learned about in the morning. So I thought that was really special.
Yeah, that's great. And I've also visited a lot of our programs every summer. And I see the same when I talk to students about what they're doing during their free time. It's often, well, I saw this thing briefly this morning and I wanted to go back and really engage with it and be able to take the time rather than being in a huge group where I can experience it in my own way.
Exactly.
Um, okay. So next we have flights. Sorry, my mouse is looks like it's dying here. So flights, of course, are really important. Student can't get to the host country and host city without getting on an airplane. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we manage flights and travel day. FlightFox is our trusted travel partner. They are more than a booking agent. They are our long-term strategic partner. They are a group of travel experts who are very experienced, both with CIEE. They've been working with us directly on high school programs for more than 8 years, and with other institutions and organizations that are similar to CIEE. They are extremely familiar with working directly with parents and legal guardians and organizations who are paying for flights specifically for minors. So they have a lot of experience with what each airline requires, each flight requires, complex different routes, ideas. If a parent is concerned about the route and not having a long enough layover or having too long of a layover, or maybe the concern is they want the cheapest route. Flightbox can work with every single family to come up with a plan that best meets their need within the parameters that are set by CIEE. Their experts, which is what they are called, they're trip experts, and that's who you will communicate with, are real humans. They live and work around the world, so they are available to help book flights 24/7. Different experts, of course, work in different regions, but they will ensure that you are getting a response within a reasonable amount of time in order to book your flight. And then they also help us with every single travel day, ensuring that we have 24/7 support from the point at which your child gets to the airport to when they get to their host city and meet the CIEE staff, and then the same on their return back to the US. In addition, I do want to mention that most Flightbox experts do speak more than one language. So if there is a language barrier for you, please make sure that you say that in your trip chat when you are booking flights. Let them know what language you prefer to speak, and they're happy to communicate with you in that language if they have an expert who speaks that language. So as a reminder, flights are not included in the price of the program. Students are responsible for booking and paying for their round trip airfare to and from the program. In order to book the flight, your student just needs to be confirmed on program. So that means that the program deposit and the couple of acceptance tasks need to be complete. Once the student is confirmed, there will be a task that appears in their CIEE account that lets them know that flights are open to book. We do have a few programs that have not yet opened for booking, but they will by the end of the first week of March. Every other program, except for that handful, has already been open and is ready for booking. So as soon as your student hits confirmed status, you can go ahead and book your flight. We do encourage you to book the sooner the better. And to clarify, you do not need a passport in your hand to book your flight. You will need a passport to travel, but you can book your flight without the passport. All students must have their flights booked by April 1st. The flight options, there are detailed FAQs in your account once you hit confirmed, as well as on the Flightbox website, which will also be linked in your account. And you will also receive a couple of emails. We'll send one out probably next week, and as well as mid-March to remind you to book your flights. But students can fly independently, which means you can fly from your home city to the host city on your own, on as much of a direct route as you possibly can, or you have a choice to book with a chaperoned group, which will leave from a gateway city. Typically, gateway cities for CIE programs will be in the New York City area, in California, or we have a couple that are in Texas and Miami this year. So they will be from major airports, hub airports, and they will go directly from that gateway city to the host country in as direct a route as possible. The chaperone will be the program leader, or if in certain situations we can't get a program leader on that flight, we will have a CIEE staff member who will travel with the group from the gateway city. So those are both options for students. They can do either one. I think I've addressed all of the flights. We can move to the next. So once students arrive in their host city, CIE staff will be at the airport to pick them up. There is what we call an arrival. So if you are booking independently and not with the group, there will be a window in which we want all flights to arrive. This is so that center staff can arrange transportation to pick students up at the airport and take them back to the orientation location or to meet with their host families. Any student who is arriving outside of that arrival window or may arrive early, what if Some of you might have family plans or trips or travel and you'll arrive early in the host city. We will have additional details as to where you will meet the group if you're not arriving at the airport during that arrival window in the week prior to the program start. If a student arrives outside of the arrival window at the airport, they will be responsible for getting themselves from the airport to meet the group in the host city. CIEE will work with the student family that they have a safe transport and that they know where they're going. And again, those details will be provided within the week prior to travel. Next, we're going to talk about housing. So housing will vary by program. All of our language and culture programs will be placed in homestays. All of our topic-based programs will either be placed in homestays or in group housing. For programs using group housing, program leaders will reside with the students at the same accommodation. So there will be adult supervision 24/7 in any group housing for any topic program. For group housing, several students will likely share a room. What the room sharing and the number of students per room and the number of students sharing a bathroom will vary based on the group housing in that city. For most programs at this point, because it is still February, we do not have confirmed housing location, address, exactly what the group housing will look like, because we are still enrolling students. So since we do not have full enrollment yet, we do not have full confirmed housing for every single program. We will have that later in the spring, and we will share the group housing details during the pre-departure online orientations, which will be webinars hosted by the host city center staff, and they will be happy to share all of those details with you at that time. But for now, we can say that for group housing, housing is fully vetted. It is visited by our center staff. We ensure that it is safe, that it is clean, that it meets all of CIEE standards. Housing matches for roommates will be done by sex based on their passport. There is an option to opt into gender inclusive housing, which means that students can be housed with other students who do not have the same sex on their passport, but both students who are in gender inclusive housing or multiple students who are in gender inclusive housing all have to have their legal guardian sign off on gender inclusive housing. So there is a permission form in the student's application for any student under the age of 18. Additionally, we don't take requests for roommates. We do this for a number of reasons, but most importantly, we really want every student to have a unique and exciting and wonderful experience and to gain all of those wonderful friends that Meredith talked about earlier. This is a chance for students to meet new friends, to learn about other students from other parts of the US, to broaden their scope of understanding of others and of the culture. We find that students who choose to room with their friends from home or ask to room with their friends from home, that actually doesn't work out. And it works out better to make those new friends and new connections. And we will work hard to ensure that we house students together with other students who will be a good match for them in their housing. For homestays, I know there are also a lot of questions right now about homestays. So I'm going to try and answer a few more homestay questions. But homestays are a home for your student to stay in. This is a family who has said that they are really interested in having a CIEE student live with them for 3 or 4 weeks this summer and sharing their life and how they live in their family, the activities that they do, the meals that they make, how they live and work and have chores and responsibilities within their own home, and sharing that with It's a really special, meaningful experience. And it is one that majority of our students, I don't know what the exact percentage is right now, but all, students come back from homestay experiences saying that they loved it, that they made a real connection with their host family, and that they keep that connection. We hear about students who are still in touch with their host families years and years later because they made such a meaningful connection, even though it was only a 3 or 4 week period. Families come in all shapes and sizes. That means that you could have a host family who is an older couple with children who are grown and have moved out of the home. It could be a young family who have younger children under the age of 10. It could be a single parent family with a couple of students living in their home currently. Really could be any type of family, just the same as we have lots of different families here in the US. Safety is always our number one priority. All host families are fully vetted. They must apply, go through a full vetting, which does include an interview in person. Their home is visited by local staff. There will be a local equivalent of a background check on every family member who is living in the home who is over the age of 18. They also go through extensive training center staff to ensure that they understand all of the CIEE rules and what is expected of them when they are hosting a student for the summer. Placements in host families will be sent about 1 week prior to departure. Your student could be housed with other Global Navigator students. So it is common to have a double placement, which means we have a couple of students placed in the same host family. That could mean sharing a room, or it could mean that there are separate rooms. Again, it entirely depends on the host family placement. And then dietary accommodations within host families. Majority of locations can accommodate most dietary allergies or restrictions. CIEE will reach out if we have any questions about your dietary restrictions that will be in your health forms as part of your application. There are a few locations where certain restrictions are very difficult to accommodate, so we will contact you if that is an issue for you. That is why it's really, really important that you fill out all of your health information accurately and quickly, so that the sooner we have that information, the sooner we can ensure that we can make an accommodation that works for you. All students will be enrolled in INEX travel and medical insurance. What this means is that students will have insurance that will cover them in case of an emergency. So this is for something that is sudden and unexpected, not ongoing maintenance or care. So this is not for your regular routine dental or medical visit. It does not include pre-existing, well, it does include some pre-existing conditions, but it won't include routine care for a pre-existing condition. It offers limited coverage for loss or theft of personal items. And all students are required to pay upfront for medical care visits. Typically, these are co-pays of around $25, potentially $50. So it is important that your student has access to money to pay for essentially an urgent care visit if needed, and then to keep the receipts, and then you will file those claims on the iNext website for full reimbursement with this plan. Students will be enrolled in May, and they will receive an email confirming that that enrollment has happened. At that time, if you have any questions about the insurance or about what it covers, we will ask that you contact iNext directly, because we are not insurance experts and they are. They will be able to answer any additional questions that you have about the iNext plan. And then with that, I did want to just briefly mention, which I did a little bit earlier, the online pre-departure orientation with the center staff, just so that you are all aware. The timing on that is we will send out invitations to all confirmed students during the month of March. These pre-departure orientation webinars will be held between the sort of end of April throughout the month of May. We will be holding these on weekends so that you all have the chance to attend, with the time difference, of course, with our local staff. We will also have a US member at each one of those webinars as well, and we will all be happy to answer additional questions on the details regarding your specific program at that time. Thanks,
Thanks,
Stephen.
Rachel. Yeah. Cool. So next we want to just review a few upcoming important dates and milestones for you to keep in mind. So I think there's a lot of folks on this call whose students were just recently accepted to the program. And for everyone who was accepted this week, the deadline to confirm your participation and save your spot on the program is February 27th. And then for everyone who's confirmed, April 1st is an important date because there's several things that you'll need to complete by then. One is paying the remaining balance of the program tuition, booking your flights, uploading a copy of your passport face page, and then also uploading completed health forms. And Rachel, maybe you would want to mention just briefly kind of why health forms are so important.
Sure. So we know the health forms are long. So for those of you who haven't looked at them yet, they are extensive. This is because your student is traveling abroad to another country with CIEE and they won't have their legal guardian with them. It's really important to us that we have a full health history of your student. Should something happen to them while they are on program, we will be able to then use that health form to assess what steps to take. Of course, we will talk to any of you parents if we need to, if they need care, if they need hospitalization, if they need to visit a doctor, etc. But this will allow us to make the initial assessment. Additionally, before your student departs, this also allows us to assess and ensure that your student will have a successful summer abroad. We don't want anyone to be set up for failure in any way. We want to ensure that we have conversations either with you as parents, with them as participants, and with our center staff to ensure that we have the right support system in place for every single student to have a successful study abroad experience.
Great. Thank you. And then the other important deadline is May 1st. And that is the deadline by which you need to opt in if you're on a language and culture program and you want to receive college credit. I saw in the Q&A someone asked, is it too late to add college credit? It is not. You have until May 1st. And if there's anyone on the call who is just starting to learn about these programs, you can visit our website to research the programs and there's links where you can start an application. All right. Rachel, you like to talk about passports? And I'm just,
Sure.
I'm seeing in the Q&A questions about if they don't have their passport by April 1st.
Yes. So for those of you who are, U.S. citizens and will have a United States passport, number one, it's important if you do not have a passport that you apply now. I would apply as soon as possible. The sooner you can get it, the better. The current processing time from the U.S. Department of State says 4 to 6 weeks, which is great. That's not that long. You can expedite your passport application as well for an additional fee, but 4 to 6 weeks at this point is still completely fine. If your passport does not arrive by April 1st, that is okay. What we will be asking, what we have asked in your application is when did you apply? So we can pull that data and then we can follow up with you based on the current processing timeline to check in. Have you received your passport yet? Our main goal is that you have your passport prior to travel. And then for certain programs, we do need you to have the passport in order to take next steps. So for example, in order to finish the visa paperwork for our Chinese language and culture program in Shanghai, we do need you to have a passport in hand in order to issue that paperwork. For a couple of other programs, we need your passport number in order to book certain activities on program. So that will be a reason for us to follow up with any student who has not yet uploaded a copy of their passport to their application. For those of you who do have a passport, upload it as soon as possible. Please don't wait. It makes life so much easier for you and easier for us. And you won't receive a million reminders asking you to upload your passport. Please make sure that it has at least 6 months of validity after the program end date. This is because every country has a different requirement. You are welcome to look at the US Department of State website. It's a great resource. It will say exactly what your passport validity needs to be for your host country. CIEE's policy, in order to cover every single country that we work with, is that 6 months after the program end date is what is required. For certain countries, as I mentioned, such as China, there will be a need for a visa or an ETA or some other entry document. So for those of you who are going to those countries, there will be additional information and guides within your CIEE account that we will load and we will have there for you sometime between the months of March and April, depending on how much time you need. We will send out emails reminding you of that. It is your responsibility ultimately, once you receive all of the information from CIEE, to follow those instructions and ensure that you get the documentation that you need in order to travel. For those of you who are on non-USA passports, you are responsible for researching and adhering to the tourist visa requirements to enter the host country. Unfortunately, as much as I would love to be an expert in everything, it's not possible. So we can't know what every single country's entry requirements are for every single other country. So that is your responsibility if you are traveling not on a United States passport. We will do our best to provide any non-US passport holder with the documents that you require to enter. You need to ask us and tell us what that documentation is. So you can email hsabroad@ciee.org and tell us what it is that you need, and we will work with the center staff in the host country to ensure that we can get it for you.
Right. Awesome. So it is now almost 8:55 Eastern time. And we will answer some of the questions that are in the Q&A. We'll do our best to get to some of the kind of most common questions, but again, we won't be able to answer every individual question. Feel free to contact our team by either booking a call. You can scan that QR code. You can email hsabroad@ciee.org. And our phone number is also on the screen where you can call us during our regular office hours. But we will go ahead and start answering some of the common questions. And the one that's been upvoted the most is, how will students get to their classes, Rachel?
Sure. So this will vary for every host city. The route that students may take, either from their group housing accommodation or from their homestay, could be walking. It could be taking the subway or the train. It could be taking the bus. It could be any combination of the above. All students will have a chance in the first couple of days of the program to ensure that they understand what their transport route is. CIEE will also ensure that any student who is walking the similar transportation route or on similar transportation, if they're taking the train or the bus or a combination, that students who are living in the same area or on the same block, the same neighborhood, that they know where each other are and they could do that route together. Students also will be given the option of saying they need help whether that's from their host family or from a CIE staff member or the program leader, to ensure that they understand how to get from point A to point B. This will be your students' probably first chance on program to really have a chance to gain that independence skill, and try a new thing all by themselves. Again, it's also important that they have their phone should ask for help. Um, but Meredith, I'd love to call on you a little bit here. If you can share a little bit about maybe your son's experience trying to get from his host family to the CIE center.
Yeah, he lived, I would say, in the suburbs of where they had to go. And I think depending on the buses, should have been about 30 minutes. But they did have the buddy system and transportation was a little bit irregular. Buses would break down and things were a little bit unpredictable. And one of their favorite stories was them running from the bus stop home to make it by curfew. But that was part of the navigation. So it was a 30-minute commute. There was more public transportation there than what there is here. You know, you could walk to a different corner if that bus was down. So they appreciated the independence and it was very easy to navigate and they were had plenty of time to figure it out and their host family helped make sure they got where they needed to go.
Wonderful, thank you. I will add that typical commute time for CIE students will be anywhere between 15 to 60 minutes typically, but as Meredith said, public transportation isn't always 100% reliable. And so sometimes students' commutes can be up to 90 minutes if there are delays or certain bus routes aren't working that day. So it is important to keep that, of course, in mind for students.
And just an added note about that, some the different centers, and I've visited Paris, for example, versus Costa Rica. But the one thing that I really appreciated about all the CIE locations is their central location. So maybe the housing they had to find to travel to, but the location and proximity for all the cultural activities was really ideal. So that was a bonus.
Yeah, amazing. I would 100% agree with that as well. So the during the day commute time is much shorter.
Mhm.
Great. And the next m- question with the most upvotes is, will parents have the opportunity to meet host families virtually? And how are host families vetted?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we will be sending out host family placements about a week prior to departure. That placement email will include contact information for the host family. And we do encourage students to communicate with their host family prior to their departure. I know that parents, and I feel this, I would feel the same way, want to also talk to the host family. It is really important to CIEE that your student make that first connection and for them to start that relationship on their own if they are able, because it will set them up for more success in building that relationship with their host family once they arrive on site. As far as vetting goes, as I mentioned earlier, we have a complete and full vetting process with our host families. Many of them have been CIEE host families for years, and we re-up their vetting process every year. So we ensure that nothing has changed. We ensure that their host family, their residents, as well as all of their background checks or an equivalent of a background check, depending on the country, is all up to date every single year, and that they go through extensive training. So again, that includes a full interview by a CIE staff member, a full vetting of their residents. So that means a CIE staff member goes to each home and checks it out and ensures that it looks like the pictures that were sent in with the application. There will be some type of background check or equivalent. And then there will be extensive training of what is expected of every host family.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. And I've seen a number of questions about classes. So, like, are the classes Monday to Friday? How many hours a day? And I can answer that. So, in general, students have 2 to 3 hours of classes every day, Monday through Friday. Um, the classes in this are not necessarily your traditional class like they might have back home. They tend to be interactive, more of like a workshop format. There's often guest speakers, or the class may go out to visit a site, to do a kind of site visit in the community. And in addition to their classes, there are cultural activities organized by the program every day so that students have the opportunity to experience things beyond what they might in a traditional classroom. On language programs, they do what's called community connections. So this is part of the curriculum where students have the opportunity to practice what they were learning in class out in the community. So it might look like going to a market to buy produce to make a salad and using vocabulary, practicing phrases that they were just learning in their classes. So in general, that's what classes look like. Um, and then Rachel, there was a good number of questions about booking through FlightFox. Um, and
Yeah,
is it required to book through FlightFox? What does it look like if a family wants to book elsewhere? And so I'll let you start by answering that question.
sure. So yes, it is required to book your flights with FlightFox. That is a CIEE requirement of all students. We, as I said, use FlightFox because of their expertise and because of our relationship with them and their understanding of CIEE's rules and needs around our flights and what is best for having large groups of minors traveling around the world. Um, FlightFox will also have what we use as an online system. CIEE will then have access to every student's flight and itinerary, and it allows us to build reports and our center staff to also have real-time access to every student's flight so that when every student is flying, again, around the world all at the same time, we can check and see what's happening with a delay or a cancellation or make real-time changes with Flightbox as quickly as possible to try to anticipate any issues that may come up. And our center staff can be doing the same thing. So it allows us all to have a really good real-time understanding and access to what every single student is experiencing on travel day. And that is truly vital for us to be able to provide really good 24/7 support on those travel days, which we know is really important to you all as parents to ensure that your student is supported and safe and knows what they're doing on travel day from their departure flight all the way until they arrive in the host city and then again back to the United States at the end of their program. That said, FlightFox can also book any family travel. So if you are looking to travel as a family together to the program destination or at the end of the program, they're happy to book multiple students together, to book the family together. They're happy to work with you within whatever your family's needs are. FlightFox also knows what our arrival and departure windows are. So they will book flights that are only within those arrival and departure windows to ensure that your student will have the transportation to and from the airport that they need. And they also will work with students who are 14 who may need unaccompanied minor booking or may not, depending on the airline, that requirement will be different. And they will work directly both with CIEE and with the family to ensure that we are meeting the needs of those 14-year-old students.
Great. Thank you, Rachel. And I did see a question about weekends and free time. So when students are not in class or in a program activity, what are they doing? So during programs on um, on the weekends, students will usually have two excursions outside of the host city. So this could be visiting, a historical site nearby, going to a beach, something like that. That's organized by the program. The excursions are included in the program tuition. Meredith, do you have any examples do you know what Noah did in terms of excursions on weekends?
Yeah, they went to a historic city, and that was the cell phone when the cell phone got lost on the bus. But that was my one of my son's other favorite experience because they had to figure it out together. So yeah, they definitely went to a historic site. And I what I appreciate about the program, which I was going to mention earlier, because there was questions about the classes and the weekends and the amount of free time, I felt like it was really balanced, that there was enough time of learning and education. It just really struck the right balance. And I was going to mention my son was really impressed because his teacher was German, but educated both at UVA and Harvard. And so I felt like my son would say that have the academic rigor and the free time. But I don't remember hearing besides going to the different historic sites, I know that they went to some artistic districts and they looked at street graffiti somewhere, there being an excessive amount of free time. So
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
hit
students are pretty busy with program activities. And then I think, when they have free time, they might, find a cafe in their neighborhood where they, can hang out, have coffee or matcha or whatever with other students on the program, go to a museum. They stay pretty busy.
Well, and I was going to say, someone asked about the language and culture programs. My observation from being on programs is that they'll have their language and culture class. They'll have an opportunity to have a nice lunch, like 30, 45 minutes, and then they go on their cultural activity. And the pacing seemed just perfect for me.
Thanks for sharing, Meredith.
Mhm.
Um, and if you need to sign off, Meredith, we understand it's getting late in the evening. And we just want to thank you so much for joining to share your perspective, as a parent and also a teacher. We'll stay on for a few more minutes to answer a few more questions, but we won't be able to answer every question this evening. So again, feel free to email or call or schedule a call with a member of our team, and we can answer questions individually after this webinar. But again, thank you so much, Rachel or Meredith. We really appreciate you joining.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Rachel, are you seeing any questions in the Q&A that you'd like to address?
Yeah, I typed a couple of answers, but I know there it looks like there are a lot of flight and flight box questions. I do really encourage families, once you are confirmed on program, that FAQ and additional readings on Flightbox and bookings will be really helpful for you to look through. There are a lot of good answers that will be in the reading section of your student's account. That said, that won't be available until they confirm. So if you are looking just for a general flight cost to sort of plan and budget, which we completely understand, I do recommend just using Google Flights or any other flight search in order to get a sense of generally what the flights will cost on departure and arrival. That is the flights that will pull into Flightbox are not special or unique in any way. They will pull in the same way that the Google Flight search pulls in flights and different options. So there is no difference in the cost of the actual flight. What is different is if your student is choosing a group flight that flies out of the gateway city with a chaperone, that obviously may change the cost of your flight if you're trying to get, say, from Charlotte to New York City to Rome instead of going directly from Charlotte to Rome. So that's where the flight cost may slightly differ from what you see on Google Flights. But if you're trying to budget, Google Flights is completely fine to use. Flightbox does charge a $50 booking fee. That is to ensure that they can provide the support that you all need, that we need, that your students need on travel day, so that they can have their experts available 24/7 to rebook, help with delays, cancellations, etc.
And I saw a question about meals and whether meals were included during weekends and during the day. Yes. So meals are provided as part of the program tuition. So really, once your student arrives on site, all of their basic needs will be met by the program. So their housing, meals, their classes, cultural activities, excursions, um, all of those needs are included once they've arrived on site. So as Rachel said, flights are not included, and if you need to apply for a passport and a visa, those costs are not included. But once your student arrives in the country, then all of their basic needs are met. We do recommend bringing some pocket money if, they want to buy souvenirs or they want to go out to ice cream or gelato or coffee with friends. So, obviously they may need some money for just discretionary spending, but their meals are included. And I think we could maybe one or two more questions. We'll wrap up here around 9:15 Eastern time. You see anything you want to answer, Rachel?
Yeah, I want to address a couple, I guess, sort of more general. I'm seeing some really specific questions in the chat, which is great. Um, we don't have time here to answer really specific questions, but I would strongly encourage you to use this QR code and set up a booking call and or email us. We are happy to answer those really specific questions that are unique and special to your student. Um, those are important questions. We don't want them to go unanswered. So please make sure that you contact us and we can get you the answer that you need. I'm scrolling through to see if there are any other major questions that are coming up. Oh, Stephen, it looks like
Mhm.
the student, so there was a couple of questions about 14-year-olds and younger students on program.
Yes.
Uh,
So
yeah.
so we have students participating in the program who are freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And from our experience of, years of sending students on these programs, we have not seen any particular issues that are unique to freshmen or younger, high school students. I think they have the same opportunity to grow, just like all the other students on the program. Everyone is really in kind of jumping into a new experience. And what we've seen is really like students, regardless of their age, bond quickly. So freshmen, younger students will make connections with other freshmen, with older students. They're integrated in the program and bond and connect just the same as everyone else. Are there any other kind of big general topics? I see one question that's been upvoted. How much scheduled versus unscheduled time is there in an average day, weekend? Um, this person's asking whether their child will have time to run. And the answer to that is yes, they will have time. So the exact percentage of how much free time they'll have will vary a little bit from program to program. But as I shared earlier, they'll be in class 2 to 3 hours a day. they'll do a cultural activity every day, something out in the community. But then other than that, they're going to have a few hours of free time before dinner and curfew. And so they'll have time, to go for a run, do other things like that that are just part of their daily routine. And obviously those are all healthy habits, to get some exercise in every day and will help them with jet lag. Obviously, exercise is good for mental health, so we make sure students have time for exercise and just other kind of daily needs. And there's a question about curfew. Um, the curfew time really varies from location to location, um, because local cultural norms are different in every place. So, in southern Spain in the summer, families will often stay up very late in the evening when the weather's cooler and they can be outside comfortably. Um, and so curfew time may be a little bit later in southern Spain than it might be in other locations. When students live with a host family, they're also expected to follow really like the expectations of their host family. And so they would likely follow the same rules the family would have if for other teens, and other students who might be living in their home. Rachel, anything else you'd add about curfew? Besides that
Um,
it varies, but there
yeah,
is a
yeah,
curfew in every location. And, host families and program leaders check in with students to make sure that they are, back in their homes, in their housing before curfew.
yeah. I would just add that it varies based on each location, and I would say the other sort of question that comes up with students, because it is summertime, and it is light out longer in a lot of our locations, that it may feel like their curfew should be much later because it's not getting dark until midnight. That the curfew is set by the local staff based on local considerations around health and safety. And so while it may seem like students should be out later because it is still full daylight at 8 p.m., it may not be safe to stay out past 8 p.m. with students in that location or on that day. So all of the curfews are set with a lot of reasoning behind them, and the center staff will make that really clear to every student. And we do expect students to abide by their local curfews.
Hmm. Great. Well, thank you all again for joining. We are sorry we can't answer every question, but we will answer your question if you reach out to us via email or schedule a call, or call us tomorrow during our office hours, our business hours. But thank you so much for joining. We know how important it is, that your child is going to be safe when they travel abroad. That's CIE's number one priority. And we're, here to partner with you in helping keep them safe. And we're excited for your student to learn and grow this summer. Anything you would want to add, Rachel?
No, just that I would say this has been wonderful. We were happy to see so many families joining. We're sorry that we didn't get to all of your questions, but again, really encourage you to reach out to our team um, tonight so that they get emails they can answer in the morning, or certainly book a call for a future conversation. Our job at CIEE is to ensure that all students have a successful study abroad experience, and that starts here, ensuring that you as parents and students feel ready and able, and that you have all of your questions answered so that you get on the plane and or say goodbye, feeling like you trust us and you know that your student is going to be well cared for while they are gone for their 3 or 4 weeks this summer.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We're seeing your thank yous in the Q&A. It means a lot. Glad to hear you found this helpful. And we're excited for you and your student. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.